in the purchasing workflow, if we come into the management inquiry, we can look at all the transactions that are in process. And so here's our one here. So what in process means is they're going through the workflow. They're still going through the workflow. So here's our one, number 630. So this console gives the users the ability to look at all of the requisitions across their business, and they can filter it in certain ways. So they can just choose a certain cost center or choose a certain originator. And so there's different filters. And this column here is a very important one. This shows who the next actioner is. So when we say next actioner, that means that is the person that the requisition is currently sitting with. So we know it's sitting with the controller. Right, so I just happen to be logged in as the controller, so I can come into my PW transactions, come into the approval console, and there this shows me the 4 requisitions I've got to approve. So it's very much the same as in the web. You can see who it's from and the date and the value and the description and the number of documents. We can double click to open it up. We can come and look at the attachments, and we can look at all the other information, and we can look at our funds availability as well. So the functionality of the approval console is almost exactly the same between the desktop and the web. So if I approve that, and I'll say and click post. So now what you'll see, you can see the little window popping up where the Sage window where it's creating the purchase orders. So this workflow that I'm using has only 2 steps in it. And the first step I did using the smartphone app, and now this is the second approval that I've just done. So purchasing workflow is now creating the purchase orders within the Sage PO module, and it can also email those purchase orders. And that's a very common requirement or common feature that people use. And it can email the purchase orders directly out to the vendor, but most clients have the purchase order being emailed to the requisitioner, and then the requisitioner reviews it, and then they forward it on to the vendor. But you can also send it to the purchasing department, so there's quite a few options in that area as well. All right, so if I come back to my management inquiry, if I come and have a look at if I look at the transactions that are completed, if I go to the bottom, number 630, so because this requisition has finished its life cycle, so it's had the purchase orders created from it, so it's now in a status of completed. But we can still come and look at it. So if we come into the event log, so this is basically the audit trail of what's happened on this requisition. So you can see the date and the time this user submitted the requisition. Then this went to the cost center manager, the division manager, and that person approved it. They put in that was the comment they put in. And then it went to the controller for a second approval, and that was the comment they put in. So yeah, that's sort of like the audit trail of who approved this requisition. And then if we come to the front tab, and if we look at the lines, so what you can see here is a column called purchase order number. And so because each of the 3 lines was for a different supplier, purchasing workflows had to create 3 different purchase orders because they're 3 different vendors. If all 3 lines were to the same vendor, then purchasing workflow would have created just one purchase order with the 3 lines on it. So it's PO number 638, 639, 648, and those are sitting inside the Sage PO module. So let's come and have a look here just to show that to you. So if we go to 638, there's the airfares, 2 airfares, $400. 639 is the 3 nights accommodation, $200 per night. And then 640 is the taxis, 1 at $100. So yeah, so those purchase orders are inside the Sage